on how to graph this? Any questions? I would like to look at a word problem so we know where this is coming from and why we need it and why do we discuss it, etc., etc., etc. So here's a problem. We're given the bar graph, gives the life expectancy for American men and women born in 6 selected years, 60, 70, 80, 90, 2000, and 2010. In exercises 89 and 90, you will use the data to obtain models for life expectancy and make predictions about how long American men and women will live in the future, of course, assuming that this model is still valid. Well, we don't know that for sure. Okay, so let's look at problem 90. And we have 2 questions here. Determine the life expectancy for women between 1970 and 2000. Now, I have to make a couple of notes to myself. What X represents, because in the problem they say X represents the number of years since 1960. So I have to write that down. And then we are asked to look at 1970 for women and 2000 for women. 1970 and 2000. What will you say about 1970 for women? Women are in green. So in 1970, the life expectancy was 74.7. In 2000, it was 79.7. So we want to determine a function that will give us a prediction for later using these 2 points. So 1970 and 74.7 and 2000 and 79.7. But again, before I do that, I have a lot of notes to write to myself and a summary of what I have discovered. So this is problem 90 on page 268. They're telling us that X is the number of years since 1960, which means what is X for 1960 then?
0.
Very good. What about 1970? Because we are asked to look at 1970 and 2000. What is X for this and what is X for this? 10 and 40. Excellent. Years. Good. So now I'm copying the information again. In 1970, for women, it was 74.7 years. And for 2000, again, just to make sure, 79.7. Yes, that's correct. Good. So what are we really given here is we are given 2 order, yes, points or ordered pairs. Can anyone identify the first point for us? Yes. Excellent. 10, 74.7. And the other one is 40. Assuming that the relationship is linear. If they don't say that, then I can make assumptions. It could be quadratic. It could be anything else, exponential. I don't know. But they do say that this is linear. Okay, perfect. If that's the case, we're asked to find the equation, and then we're asked to find and predict using this equation what is the life expectancy of American women born in 2020. So what will 2020 represent for us? 60 years. But before I go there, what do we have to do first? Find, yes, rate of change or the slope. Very good. Can anyone dictate? Good. So 79.7 minus 74.7 is 5. And 5 over 30 is 1 over 6. 1 over 6 means nothing without a measurement unit. It's a ratio of 2 variables. The measurement unit has to have 2 measurement units. One coming from the top over, one coming from the bottom. What is the measurement unit for the top? Years. Per. What is the measurement unit of this? Exactly. Yes, which means the life expectancy for women increases every year by 1/6 of a year because it's positive. It increases per year by 1/6 years per year. Okay, good. So now we're ready to find the equation of this line. Are we given the y-intercept? No. So we will use y minus phi1 equals the slope times x minus x1. And I repeat what I keep saying. If something you know and you know well and it works for you, do not switch to my method unless you say, well, this is easier, I'm going to switch. But otherwise, you don't have to. You make me happy if you stick with what you know. If it works, don't change it. Which ordered pair would you like to use? The first or the second? If you say the first, then you write 10 here and 74.7 here. And now we put everything together and simplify, solve for y, and then determine what happens if the model still holds, hopefully, or it's increased or better. So y minus 74.7 equals 1/6, x minus 10. We have to distribute 1/6. So 1/6 x minus 10 over 6 is 5/2. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. 5/3. And then I have to add 74.7. You can, it's not going to be, it's going to be ugly. I don't have my calculator, but you can leave it as is, or you can multiply. Thank you. So 74.7, right? Multiplied by 3, and then I subtract 5 from it. And I will keep it as is. I have 219.10. So y equals 1/6 x plus 219.10 divided by 3. This times this minus 15. Oh yeah, I mean, of course, 3 times minus 5, that's correct. Okay, so now they're asking us to plug in 60. That's all they want. So x equals 60 divided by 6 is 10 plus 219.1 divided by 3. And I have to add 30 to that, right? So 30 plus that. And I have to divide by 3 now. I got 83.03. 83.03 years. So if the model still holds, then moving forward in 2020, the life expectancy for women should be 83.803. Somebody born in 2020 is expected to live at least 83.03. Okay, any questions before we look at average rate of change and parallel and perpendicular lines? Any questions for me? Anything you'd like to ask? Anything you'd like to go back to? Anything? Okay, so let's look at problem 18 on page 279. And this is f of x equals the square root of x with x1 equals 9 and x2 equals 16. They want us to find the average rate of change between 9 and 16, x1 and x2. And we will be using the formula, the definition basically. What is the definition? Of the average rate of change that we wrote about 20 minutes ago. Yes, it is, but I have to write it in terms of function. F of 16 minus, I have to show that first, but you're right. Good, over. Very good. So f of 16, I will have to agree. F of 16 is the square root of 16, which is 4 indeed, minus f of 9 indeed, which is 3. f of 9 is the square root of 9, which is 3. So the numerator is 1 and the denominator is 7. In this situation, there is no measurement unit. It's all abstract. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, then I would like to look at parallel and perpendicular lines. Any questions on how to determine the average rate? Is this okay with everyone? Any questions, please? Any questions? Okay. So let's look at problem 10 on 279. We're given that a line passes through this point and is parallel. That's a sign for parallel. They have to be parallel. Whose equation is 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. Okay, so I'm just going to draw the scenario here. Just the scenario. So here is the idea. We're asked to find the equation of this line. We don't have it. But we have two things about it. We know two things about it. That somewhere along the line, I will be finding this point, negative 1 comma 3. And this line happens to be parallel to another line whose equation is given as 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. So now, I know that the equation, I know I have a point that I could use to determine y. So this is not the y-intercept, so this is y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, and this will be negative 1, and this will be 3. So the only thing that I'm missing before I find the equation of the line is the slope. Is there any way I could find the slope?
Yes.
How?
Y by itself.
Yes. By solving this equation for y, setting this equation in the form y equals mx plus b, solving for y, I will be able to determine the slope of this line. If I have this to be 5, what will be the slope of the other line?
5.
Exactly. So if I determine the slope of this line, it will be identical with the slope of the line I'm looking for. Why? Because they are parallel, and we know the relationship between the lines, the relationship between the slopes of two parallel lines. So let's start by solving this for y. Be very careful how you solve for y for two reasons. First of all, what I would do, I would move this term to the other side. I would write 3x minus 5 equals 2y, or repeat it from the right-hand side, so I don't have to worry about multiplying by negative 1. It doesn't matter. You can keep this here and move the other 2, and then you'll divide by negative 1. It's not important. But when you divide both sides by 2, do not do this. This is not going to help. So please do not do this. So we have 2y equals 3x minus 5. When you divide both sides by 2, you have to write this. So you are dividing each and every term by 2. Dividing each and every term by 2 gives you the number in front of x, which is indeed the slope. So we solve the given equation for y step by step. We identify the slope because when you compare it to this, you'll understand that this is the y-intercept 0, comma, negative 5 halves. This is the slope, and the y and x. So if the slope of this line is 3 halves, the slope, I'm going to call them m1 and m2, this must be 3 halves. And now I have all the information I need to solve for y. Any questions so far? Please think for a moment and let me know if you have questions. Is this clear? Does it make sense? Any questions, please? Okay, let's look at another. let's say that this time it passes through a point and it's perpendicular to a line whose equation is given. Yes, we were at, I'm sorry, forgive me. I'm sorry, I have to solve for y. No, I wasn't thinking that you would do this without me. I just was ready to move on. 3/2 x plus 3/2 and plus 3. The least common denominator is 2, so we have 3 plus 6. So y equals 3/2 x plus 9/2. This is the equation of the line passing to the given point and parallel to the given line. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, so let's look also at the one with a radical, with a perpendicular this time. So let's look at problem 12. Questions? Is this okay, everyone? Okay, passing through 5, comma, -9. So this is on page still 279. And this time is perpendicular. This is the sign for perpendicular to the equation x plus 7y minus 12, to the line whose equation is that. The same scenario, the same idea. So here is what we have to do. So this is a line whose equation I don't have. I know it passes through 5, comma, -9, and is perpendicular everywhere 90 degrees. It's perpendicular to this line whose equation is given, x plus 7y minus 12 equals 0. And now please tell me what to do. Solve for y. Let's solve for y. Excellent. Why would I solve for y? Yes, to find the slope of the given line and then identify, they're not going to be equal, right? Okay. To identify the slope of the line whose equation I don't have yet. Excellent. That's the idea. Perfect. So I will keep 7y here, -x plus 12, and I will divide term by 7 to get -1/7x plus 12 divided by 7. So then I have the slope m2, and then you'll tell me the slope m1. But what is the slope m2 for now? The slope m2 is, very good. This is -1/7. Excellent. Remember, I need a number here, correct, whose product with this is -1. So -1/7 times what will be -1? First of all, I know it has to be a positive number. And what number times -1/7 will give us -1? 7 indeed. Only 7 times -1/7 will equal -1. There is no other number. So now I have a point and I have the slope. So we write the same equation again. Y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. Why? Because I don't have the y-intercept. So 5, -9, and 7. So y plus 7 equal, I'm sorry, thank you, 7x minus 5, 7x minus 35 and minus 9, 7x minus 44. What does this represent? It's the equation of the line that passes through 5, -9, and is perpendicular to x plus 7y minus 12 equals 0. Questions?
Did you use?
Say it again.
Am I answered it?
Okay. So, well, we have a few more minutes. questions, I would like to look at whatever you want, or just simply go back and work on more problems like the ones that we just looked at today, whatever you want, it's your decision. Your test would not be a copy from my math lab, but I just thought that it's a good practice since you've done so much homework in my math lab to just choose some problems from there. So please choose what would you like to, whatever you would like to work on.
Number 6. I struggle with the substitution.
I don't know if I was able to record the second video, I'm not sure. I'm so sorry, forgive me, you said number,
6.
okay, do you wanna look at it for a minute or?
Yeah, I struggle with the substitution.
Okay, so we're working on number 6, let's look at it for a minute. First of all, what type of equation is it? Say it again? In form. It's not quadratic. The polynomial degree 4 cannot be quadratic, correct? Is that okay? Yes? So how many solutions do we expect, first of all? Very good, awesome. I'm logged out, I'm just trying to put attendance in. Okay, Blaze is not here. Mary Kate is not here. Elizabeth is here. Yes. Collie is here. Collie? Yes. Megan? Yes. Megan? Megan? Tyler? Thank you. Danielle is here. Dylan? Yes. Victoria is here. Krista is here. Nicole is here. Sasha? Yes. Chris is here. Garrett is not. Yes, he's on vacation. Alexis? Yes. Caitlin, yes, yes. Logan, yes. And Becca, yes. Okay, so in this situation, I will denote this by t and this by t squared because it's there, not because I want to, right? When I square this, I will get that. So t squared minus 29t plus 100 equals 0. As I said, if it takes more than 20 seconds to factor, forget it, and just use a quadratic formula. But it's not a big deal with negative 25 and minus 4. And get t equals 25 and t equals 4. But these are two new equations because I denoted t by t, x squared. X squared is denoted by t. So x squared equals 25 and x squared equals 4. When I take square roots, how many solutions do I get from each? 2. So that's why I asked from the very beginning, always, so you don't forget, right on the side, degree 4, 4 solutions. And you will not forget to put the plus or minus, I'm assuming.